Well, for those of you that are still here, we appreciate
You're
you.
welcome.
Thank you for sitting through all 3 minutes of that. I'm told that we had a shorter version, but it didn't make it to air. So happy Tuesday, everybody. Hope that you had a wonderful Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, whatever your celebration of choice is. Yeah, apparently we're rolling in the TikTok days. But John, it's good to see you. Happy Tuesday. We are here between Christmas and New Year's, which means some of us are working, some of us aren't. Some of us are pretending to be working.
Yeah. Happy Tuesday. Happy New Year. Holy shit.
Yeah, 2020 is almost dead. Thank fuck.
Yep.
I mean, it's been bad, but we've been lucky. So life is good.
You got any single barrel news for us tonight?
Sure do. We have a busy week. So emails went out for the double Russell's Reserve, the Knob Creek, the new riff, and that is it. So if you got an email, great. Hold tight. We are working with retailers. You should get your individual email this week or next week. It's kind of jumbling through, but all the barrels are ready to be bought. They're ready to be shipped to you. The Knob Creek Course Marshal 9-year barrel is good to go. The Dessert Parlor and Fruit Stand Russells are good to go. And new riff, Diamond in the Riff 2 is good to go. So if you got an email, great. Congratulations. You'll be getting your sale email soon, and you'll hear about Elijah Craig and some more barrels coming up soon. And I think that's it.
Perfect. I didn't get an email, but you're going to go ahead and forward one to me, right?
Your grandfather did. You should know.
Okay. I like it.
Let's see. And tonight we are joined. We're very lucky to have Kenny Coleman and Ryan Cecil. You guys know them as Bourbon Pursuit and Pursuit Spirits, but they are rocking something new in 2021. So they're joining us here tonight. They're our guests, and we're going to be talking about a little something called Pursuit United. Yeah, I got the right side there. Kenny, Ryan, how are you?
Awesome, guys. I like the intro. I mean, I saw somebody put in the chat, it's like a Disney intro. I'm like, yeah, it kind of was. It was really good.
Yeah,
it's a little bit Disney, a little bit gangster.
That was the
fastest
really I've ever seen.
Yeah,
I love it. It was my jam, my kind of speed. So we're good.
It's been, I think, yeah, we edited that thing like a couple weeks ago. So like I had that tune stuck in my head in like mid-November, and it was just kind of like,
yeah. We've been partying to like the same 3 tunes for a long time. The production line on our Christmas and New Year's episodes is pretty beefy.
But
cut the track, put it in the car, roll the windows down.
Yeah.
I was I had a couple of drinks one night, and I was like playing our hard rock Christmas. I forget what the Pachelbel's canon was, like in my living room, and my fiance was just like,
"Oh yeah,
come on, like make it stop." So
how many times do we have to listen to the same goddamn song?
Now that Christmas is over, she's saved.
Well, whether it's the same song or if you got a kid, it's the same damn movie over and over again. So.
Oh yeah, how many times have you seen? What's the?
I've seen Frozen 2 about 400 times.
I was saying, didn't like a new Disney one come out? Like I was wondering. I don't have kids. So
yeah, Soul just came out on Friday. I've seen half of it, so I'm doing good.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I previewed it. I thought it might be too deep for my 5-year-olds. I was like, I really don't want to explain this one.
Yeah, the whole life-death cycle there is a little bit deep.
Yeah.
Well, great. It is good to have you guys. So, give us a little bit of background here. We've interacted before as Bourbon Pursuit, but go ahead and give us the lowdown a little bit on Pursuit Spirits before we talk about what you guys are moving on to in 2021.
Sure. I'll kind of take that off here, and Ryan, you can take the next one after this. So I'm sure everybody kind of knows Ryan and I. We are the hosts and the founders of Bourbon Pursuit. We also have Fred Minnick, that's another member of Bourbon Pursuit, and of course my wife, that is in the background, that takes care of all the great editing and makes us sound as good as we do every week on the airwaves, or I guess airwaves, whatever, download
airwaves,
whatever you want to call them. They're waves. They're in wave form at some point. So it was about midway through 2018, and we had discussed a brand on the podcast, and we had somebody reach out, and they said, "Hey, I helped build that brand. Would you be interested in doing your own?" We had no idea that we were like, I mean, I guess like, let's kind of talk about like what you have an idea, because we never thought we were going to actually start a bourbon brand or anything like that. Come to find out, he's a barrel broker. He said, depending on the day, I got 2,000 to 5,000 barrels in inventory. You can come and just choose whatever it is that you want. We were like, okay, well, what do you have? And to kind of make this story a little bit shorter, it almost never happened, but we got some barrel samples. we tasted them against Henry McKenna 10. We really liked one of them, and we said, okay, if this beats Henry McKenna, we're going to do it. It did. That became episode 1 of the Pursuit series line. And that was released back in December of 2018. And over that time has been a gradual progression of being able to go and select single barrels from our broker, which anybody that doesn't know the way the bulk whiskey market works is that if you want to start a brand or you just want to, put out a bunch of bottles or whatever it is, you have to go and buy, 10, 20, 30, 50, 100, 200, whatever in barrels it is, write a check, whatever shows up, shows up. We got the rare opportunity that we actually got to go and hand select every single one of these barrels from our broker. So knowing that we are really choosing the best of the best. So we had a really good source market advantage when it came to that. We also started extending that to work with other craft distilleries and other upcoming distilleries to be able to start showcasing their stuff, because we know that everybody's gotten burned by craft whiskey at some point. You go and you buy a bottle, whether you spend $40 or you spend $140. If it tastes like youth and you're just like, oh, you can't stomach it, it totally turns you off. And so knowing that we have the opportunity to we taste through a lot of stuff. I'm not trying to boast or anything, but we do get a lot of packages sent our way of other distilleries. They're like, hey, try our stuff and talk about it and blah, blah, blah. About 90% of what gets sent to us, we never review. And that's because we don't feel it's right to sit there and dog somebody, because all it's going to take is a little bit more age. If you put something bad out there today, say like this distillery, don't drink it. Who knows? In 2 years, that whiskey could change. It could be completely different. So totally. we kind of took a different approach to that. So we started working with some distilleries that we knew their whiskey was already really good. And by being able to do that and bottom up the single barrels, and knowing we have our community of supporters behind us, we kind of have that, I guess you could say you're a little bit more forgiving, and you're like, okay, if we trust these guys and their palate and what they're selecting, then I can go ahead and make a leap and go and purchase something. And not only that, is we try to bring those brands along with us. So we've worked with places like Starlight Distillery, which we have up right now, Willett, Woodinville, Finger Lakes. We're going to be working with some other ones here in the next year. And it kind of gives us an opportunity to bring their brand, and we can kind of showcase it for them. Now, it's been fun, but single barrels are a pain in the ass. They really, really are. Not only just from a bottling, selecting, convincing people to sell you whiskey. I know Ryan's had this conversation time and time again. Like this is the weirdest business where you have to like beg people to sell you stuff.
Yeah. It's the only time I've ever had to beg people to sell me something. I'm like, seriously, come on.
Well, especially in the whiskey market too, where normally there's just like anything they want to put in a bottle, somebody's going to already be looking for. So to say like, hey, we have to try really hard to just like take this away from them so we could take it is just a crazy type of world too.
It truly is. It truly is. And so, as I mentioned, just single barrels, they're just a pain in the ass, because not only is it just from the bottling perspective, it's labeling. Every time we create a new label for Pursuit Series, there's a ton of waste, because at minimum, we have to order 250 labels. Let's say at best, you get 150 bottles out of a barrel proof. So there's 100 labels that all cost, it have some cost to them that just get thrown away. There's just a lot of waste, and it's a lot of logistics that go into it. And even when we were trying to get into traditional distribution, trying to explain that everything we do is a single barrel, distributors are like, what? That doesn't make sense. Why would you do that? And it was actually our broker's suggestion, probably when we started doing the first episode. He was like, you all really need to do a small batch. And the problem that really came out of this was that there wasn't any liquid on the market that we could get, and we felt really confident in the fact that not only could we continue getting it, but how do we get the price point lower? I mean, when we're doing some of our single barrels, that it becomes expensive because of the waste. And so that's why some of our single barrels are 65 at the low end, and on the high end, they're 125, and in the retail stores, they're 150. So we wanted to try to figure out, how do we get this cost down and how do we make this work? And we didn't really have anything available to us that really worked in a small batch kind of product because it was either too young or we didn't like the way it tastes. And we just had to wait for something to happen. So lo and behold, our broker, they've been really, really good to us in regards of being able to be a good partner for bottling, for helping us find barrels, for everything that goes into the brands themselves. And he gave us a phone call one day. He's like, I got this stuff. It's from Tennessee. It's not that distillery you're thinking of. You've got to try this. And over the past probably year, we've gotten this phone call 4 times. And every single time we're like, oh God, here we go. Like,
here we go again.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, they've got some 36% MGP, which it's just on the cusp of hitting 4 years, but anybody kind of knows that 36% at 4 years still isn't there yet. Like it needs to be at like 6 to 8. And so we just knew that we were like going into this. We're like, okay, here we go. And I mean, he kept talking about it and talking about it. So he sends us some samples and damn it, was he right? Like it was really, really, really good. And we're like, okay, we now have something that we can use as a base to kind of go forward with this. And from there, we started really kind of brainstorming like, well, what else can we do to kind of make this unique? I think the one thing that really we didn't want to do was be yet another MGP. I mean, that's just what it comes down to is you go to one source, you get it, you bottle it, you put it out as your own, or you get it, you put in a toasted barrel and people think it's awesome, right? I mean, that was the thing that we didn't want to be, and we wanted to create something that was totally unique. And so we knew that we had this undisclosed Tennessee source that we're still not able to talk about, unfortunately, but it is not based in Tullahoma. And we've had a really good relationship.
It does not rhyme with pickle.
Yeah, it doesn't rhyme with pickle. There you go.
Excellent.
Good way to get around that, Ryan. And so we had a really good relationship with Finger Lakes Distilling up in New York. And we were always been a fan of their weeded product. We put out episode 10. I believe episode 25 might have been another one from Finger Lakes as well. And we just knew that we really loved their stuff. So we started actually taking some of their product, blending it with the Tennessee stuff, and realizing like, okay, we're still missing something. Like to really go to market here, what is the thing that we're missing? It's Kentucky. Like you got to have something of Kentucky in the blend to be able to make this happen.
Absolutely.
And this is where the story really has a roller coaster of emotions to it, because anytime you're dealing with the sourced market, you have no idea what's going to be there today and what could be gone. And we knew that very early on. We know that there's a bunch of 12-year Barton on the market. Like it's available, but it's like what Ryan was last, like $6,000 a barrel is like what it's up to now. Like that would totally blow our budget. It would make this not even worth pursuing. You had that. Every once in a while we get a phone call. They're like, hey, we've got some 6-year-old Heaven Hill barrels available. What do you think? And we're like, okay, send us a sample. We get a sample in. Ryan spends a few nights actually blending, trying to find the perfect ratio, calls me over, and we're like, this is it. This is it. We got this. This is going to be it. We call on Monday morning, put in an order, like, let's get like 6 or 10 barrels to start this off. They're like, oh, sorry, it's all sold out. It was gone over the weekend. I mean, that's the problem with the source market. You never know what's going to be there next. And Ryan really had a great idea. And he goes, you know what? Like, I'm tired of dealing with this. I'm just going to reach out to Bardstown Bourbon Company. And he did. And it was truly a breath of fresh air to actually talk to a distillery that wants to work with you. And I think we were in a unique position only because of the podcast and what we could bring and the exposure we could bring to them, because we kind of told them about this idea of this new small batch that we were doing and how we want to kind of create more partnerships where we don't want to deal with the sourced market because it's very unreliable. We want to create a product that is at least somewhat consistent from batch to batch, but something that we can recreate over and over again. We don't want to be like what you see in the market right now. You see all these 15-year-old Kentucky bourbons that are $150, $300 coming to market. Yep. They're going to be gone in the next 6 months, and that's it. You'll never see them again.
Yeah.
And that's one thing we don't want to do. You don't want to keep chasing it. You want to create new bottle designs. You want to keep new packaging. We're already getting gray here. We don't need to get any more. And so that was kind of I think the catalyst that really drove us to start working with Bardstown Bourbon Company was they were very open to it. They have some aged stuff available that's their own product. And it was at 3 years and like 9 months, 10 months when we started talking to them. They gave us their samples. Ryan did his magic, came up with a blend that we really liked, and ended up buying some barrels off of them. We've got some new make contracts going in. Put this first blend together. We're super, super happy with how this blend turned out for the first batch of Pursuit United that's now coming out and starting to hit retail shelves, as well as going online at sealbox.com here very, very soon. And we're super excited that we can continue this on, hopefully for years and years and years to come now too.
That's excellent, man. So
it was a very long-winded way to do it, but I hope that
well, that gave us a pretty good history.
We can end the show now.
It's good to see you guys. Thanks for coming out.
Yeah.
That gave us pretty good history though. So when you were talking about how this almost didn't even happen, this is all under the banner or the umbrella of Pursuit Spirits. So Pursuit United is the newest brand extension or line extension there. Day zero, before this happened, like that night, you guys have samples and you're comparing to McKenna 10. Is your goal to make a single barrel brand? Like, is that where you're looking to go with it initially? Or like, what was your tack when you're first kind of going into this?
I'm speaking. Yeah, Ryan, you go. I've talked enough here. You get the next.
Yeah, I don't even know what you said. I zoned out after a minute. No, I'm kidding. But yeah. So we, initially we did the taste and it was better McKenna. We're like, all right, this is great. We're gonna,
Oh man.
So Ryan's getting his internet service from Blake.
That's okay.
I'll try to pick up where he left off. I think one of the things that we knew going into this was that, and for us personally, we knew that, and we still know we are never going to be master distillers. We don't want to be distillers. We have fun in blending now, but that's now. This wasn't when we first started. When we first started, this was when we were also doing, I think 15 single barrels as a part of the private barrel program and Patreon and all that as part of Bourbon Pursuit. And we felt very confident. We're like, yeah, I think we can pick some pretty damn good single barrels. Like we can do it very, very well. However, we didn't really believe in ourselves that we are ready to create a blend. And so just kind of picking, and I'm just kind of talking about how at the very beginning, we just knew we could pick good single barrels. We didn't really think that we could really go to mass market with a blend or anything like that.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Did I cut out there?
Yeah, you cut out. You cut about 3 words into the first time you spoke, and then we kicked you out.
I apologize. I don't know. Yeah, essentially what Kenny said. I mean, we thought we were just going to be single barrels. I was scared of blending, scared of small batches. It's a big investment up front, to do that. We thought we could pick good single barrels, but blending was a whole, that's for the Joe Beatrice's, Trips, Chris Morris's of the worlds, not us. We're just some peasant podcasters picking single barrels,
It's hard work though. I mean, like, I've been doing blending on and off for a couple of different things over the years, but we brought in some people. We did a Penelope blend earlier in the year and people were like, holy shit, this is way harder. Like super fun. And like everyone enjoyed it, but people were, assumed that you could just sit down and blend in an hour and come up with something. And they're like, it took me all week. Like,
and that was something that we were going to buy from them, not something we had to then sell to people.
Yeah. It's totally wild. I admit too, when I saw New York on the tech sheet, I was like, oh, please don't let this be Tut Hill Town. Cause I knew like Hudson was coming back for revenge for like all the shit we've talked on Hudson.
That's right. They're coming to get you.
No, like I said, we've had that great relationship with Finger Lakes. And so they've been a really good partner. We love their whiskey. So it's really great.
Yeah, man, their rye is outstanding.
Yeah. And blending is no easy task. I mean, I thought that it was going to be sitting down an hour with 100 ml and be done in an hour and we have something. No, it took many hours. It's amazing what just little changes here and there can do to the whiskey and make it good or bad or throw it way off or do it this or that. And so it just a lot of trial and error. I think probably for a good couple months I would have, it's funny, we had Henry McKenna as our baseline for the single barrels for this blend. I had New Riff, and I had a bottle of New Riff, a bottle of Wilderness Trail, a bottle of 5-year Willet, and Rabbit Hole. And every night I would blend up something, and I would get my wife and I would say, let's do a blind taste, and I want to put my blend against it, and it's got to taste better than all these or just as good. And so every night I would do that, and if it didn't hit the mark, I would go back and change it. And just that constant trial and error, just ultimately, and the hardest part was going through 3 different products trying to get to the final one, because you'd find something, you're like, gosh, this is it, we nailed it, and then they're like, well, we don't have any whiskey for you, or it's too expensive. and so it's really interesting, because you're trying to blend something, but also you have to think about cost, and you're also thinking about quality. So it's like, it's easy if I had 3 12-year bourbons or something I could blend, but when you're trying to blend 4-year-old whiskeys, there's 4-year-old whiskeys has a lot of flaws still. Even the best distillate, there's still youth. And so what I tried to do was try to just highlight the best of each component. And it was challenging, but I feel pretty good about what came out of it.
That's good. Yeah. And it's interesting you mentioned like how rough the domestic broker market is. Like product moves that fast. Like, brokering internationally, I've always kind of run into those problems. And I assume that like, okay, it's because there's someone in every other country in the world that wants the same stuff. Like, maybe it's easier domestically. So it's really eye-opening to hear it's not the case.
No, it's not the case. And, I just got to tip my hat to Ryan one more time, because he really is the kind of the talent that really created this. At the very beginning, we were going back and forth and trying to create blends and have each other taste them. And his was always better every single time. And so I was just like, you know what? I'm throwing in my hat. I'm going to go back to working on spreadsheets. You let me know. You keep bringing blends by. I'll keep tasting them, and we'll know when we have it. And yeah, and
I was like, Kenny, I'll get the product and make the product. You organize it and ship it out and get it to people, and sell it. That's I think and it's worked out perfectly. Kenny's done a great job at, the distribution side. We can get into that too, like just working with how much logistics and emails back and forth with different distributors and getting it in the hands of the people you want it to be in. It's a ton of work, and Kenny's excelled and did a great job on the packaging work with our designer and stuff. So it's been a great compliment since we're a couple now,
Nobody might have seen that. There was we posted it on our Discord before we jumped on here. Literally like an hour ago, somebody put a comment on one of our YouTube Whiskey Quickies, legit asking if Ryan and I were a couple.
Yeah, I think you guys make a handsome couple.
Yeah, now we can call you mom and dad. It won't be that weird.
No.
That's so funny. So when you decide, obviously you're splitting between like on-premise retailers, like an actual retail outlet, and then online. How do you decide, did you want this to be majority online? Did you want it to be like majority like on physical shelves, or do you kind of split it 50-50?
When we were doing this, and we have to kind of rewind back to the early days too, when we were launching Pursuit Series, we knew in the very beginning that we wanted to be an online first brand, because we have been big proponents and advocates of breaking down commerce laws, alcohol shipping. There's no reason why I shouldn't be able to buy something from a distillery in any other state and not have it shipped to my door. And we have to deal with antiquated laws in this country. And so we are very much on the side of, okay, well, how do we get this in the hands of our supporters across the country? Being the podcast, we're national. Like we've got listeners all across the United States. So how do we get this in the hands of people without having to sit there and say, okay, well, let's go and open up California, then Nevada, then Texas? Like it's too much. And so that was actually at the same exact time when we were launching Pursuit Series, when Blake's was actually launching Sealbox. And we kind of put them to a stress test, because we sold out of the first 2 barrels of Pursuit Series in like less than 24 hours, all through the Patreon community. And that was the first time he's ever sold a barrel that quick. And so he had to figure out pretty quickly how to get shipping logistics taken care of.
Oh yeah.
And this was, again, 2 years ago when FedEx was still slapping hands and everything like that, when if you weren't following the right rules. And so we really put him to the test on it. And I think that kind of goes back to the roller coaster of emotions when he called us one day and he's like, guys, like they've shut off shipping to Kentucky. And Ryan and I were like, oh God, like here we go. Like we're doomed.
sure.
This is never going to work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, then all of a sudden, you know, a few weeks later, he's talking to FedEx and like, okay, we're back in business. So it was, again, one of those kind of roller coaster of emotions. Over time, we eventually started working on slowly getting distribution into other states. And we had, just because people reached out to us, they actually wanted our product. We never actually said, oh, we've got to go to this state. Like we've got to find a distributor. Every single time somebody would come to us. And so that made it a lot easier to kind of slow roll it. Like, okay, you want a barrel? We do single barrels. That's how it works, and so on and so forth. So when it came time to actually do Pursuit United, you know, it kind of goes to the same exact thing. We wanted to make sure we take care of a greater audience. So of course we shipped the most of what we could to Sealbox inside of DC to kind of let it go across the country. But then we also gave a good percentage to states like Tennessee, because he was our distributor there was very much on board. He loved the product. He loved the idea. And he was emailing me every week asking when it's going to be ready. So I felt very confident in giving him the second largest percentage. And then third going to Texas, because everything's bigger in Texas. So why not start throwing stuff there? And then we also had Kentucky. We had to kind of, it'd be cool to kind of be able to walk here to the liquor store here locally and see it on the store shelves. It's not actually out here yet. I think we still have another few more weeks, and while it's still sitting at our distributor, but it'll be kind of cool to see it here in our backyard too.
That is neat. Congrats on getting into Texas. I mean, I know you've been with Victory in Texas for a while, but I mean, that state feels like it just has a moat around it sometimes. Like, you know, people in Texas don't want stuff from out of Texas coming in, and they don't want stuff from in Texas going out. And I always wonder, like, how do people sell booze in Texas? Like Texas is the most backwards ever.
Yeah, there's a lot of logistics. Yeah, we actually started with Victory, and then we dumped them, and then went to somebody called Texas True. It's a very, very small distributor, but again, they were very gung ho, and I think that's one of the things that, and maybe Ryan can talk about a little bit more, is that when you start talking to distributors, if you're a small brand like ours, the Republics, they're not going to give you the time of day. And they want to go sell hundreds and thousands of cases. We're not going to be able to be those people. So what we're doing is we're talking to smaller distributors that want to have whiskey in their portfolio.
Okay.
And have something unique to offer. And so being able to do that, we give them something that's unique for them to be able to go and pitch to their stores and stuff like that. And, you know, again, hats off to our guy in Texas. You know, he was like, I think I can get you into specs. We're like, okay, sure, go for it. Well, call me when it happens. 2 weeks later,
he's like, y'all need to come in and meet these people. And we're like, you know, we're good. I think you can handle it. And
you got this, bro.
Sure enough, man, he sealed the deal. And Ross I call him Howdy Sir, because every email starts with Howdy Sir. But he's been awesome. We haven't met him yet, but he's been a really good advocate for the brand and getting us in, you know, all through Texas. Texas is an important state. If you're going to be successful, you have to have a big presence there.
Yeah. So how big is the inaugural? I know small batch, so it's going to be a batch, but how big from a volume standpoint is your guys' first batch of Pursuit United?
You know, now that we tasted this one, we were like, oh shit, we should have dumped it all. But you know, it was one of those things where we wanted to start. It's a, you know, a crawl, walk, run scenario.
Sure.
And with this one, we looked at, again, my spreadsheet magic and trying to figure out, okay, these are the blends. If we do this percentage, do we need this many barrels from these particular places? And so this first one was, I believe, a 10-barrel blend, and it yielded somewhere around 2,250 bottles.
Okay.
And that is, again, that's the first run. We're looking at doing our next run hopefully in March. Who knows if that's going to happen? We're still trying to figure out where we can sneak some barrels to kind of make that happen, because we've got 2 of the components. We need the 3rd component to be able to get there, and that's going to be 4 times as big. So we're projecting a little bit over 8,000 bottles in the next run for being able to do that. Again, this is one of those things where we talk to the distributors and they're like, 60 cases, 75 cases, that's all you got. Like, so we're trying to, give more and more to people that are wanting it.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. I mean, and 2,300, bottles is nothing to sneeze at. That's, 10 times bigger than a healthy barrel. So,
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
And, sorry, go ahead, Aaron.
No, and I'd say we were super nervous, dumping 10 barrels and blending them and, hoping it translates from a 100 ml tube to a 2,300, whatever the count was,
right,
batched. And it turns out, it was a huge sigh of relief that it turned out. But,
Ryan, tell the story. Tell the story.
Okay, so we'll tell the story. So like a month ago, after they had like just initially dumped our 10 barrels into the blending tank or vat to vat, and we're like, hey, can you send us a bottle just for fixed pictures for online, put it on the website? And they're like, sure. So we got all the pictures, everything, and then Kenny's like, all right, come on, let's try it. So I come over, we open it up, and I nose it, and I was like, oh God, it's not it. It doesn't. There's something missing. And so we try it, and it's like, gosh, it's like 90% there, but it's not there. Something's missing, and we were both panicked. Like
I think we drank half the bottle, and we're still like,
we're trying to convince
ourselves. Yeah, we're just trying to convince ourselves it's good. I mean, and Lauren will attest to that as well. Like I was in utter depression for a solid weekend because I was like, this sucks. Like this is not what we anticipated.
We were like doing damage control. We're like, all right, we got to tell people like, look, this was our first attempt at blending. Grow with us. We just, we tried, and we're going to promise it'll be better in the future, but we text our bottler, and we're like, so when you send us that sample, like, was it like fully vatted, blended? And then he was like, no, it was just kind of dumped, He's like, we've just finished bottling. And at this time, everything had been bottled. So we're really panicked. And he's like, we just finished, and I promise it's pretty good. Why don't I just send you another bottle, and so we got it, about a week later. So there was a week of like anxiety. No. I'm not sleeping. I text Kenny and Lauren. Lauren saying Kenny's like laying on the floor crying, and just like
it's not an understatement. I mean, I can still see the pools over there.
And I went from this like just like, all right, this is cool, like our first small batch, like this is, and then just like, oh God, I failed. Like people are gonna think I'm an idiot and I'm a loser. Like, but then we got that other bottle and we opened it up, and right off the nose, I was like, oh baby. And then we tasted it, and I was like,
there it is.
It was it, and it's everything that we thought it was going to be. And it was just like pure joy. And then, it's, yeah.
And then we're like, okay, we're going to 90,000 bottles next. So.
Yeah, right. We never have to do this again. It's funny because that actually rings true. So something you said there reminded me of something that gave me a question mark. So when we did the Penelope for our bourbon, they were like super nervous when they vatted it too. They vatted it. They came back a little while later. They called me and they're like, it's actually really good. And I was like, what do you mean it's actually really good? Like we blended it. Like I'm pretty sure it's really good. And he was like, well, you never know. Like you got to let it rest for a while. And he's like, but my partner, he's got his head in the tank right now, and he says it smells right on. And I was like, is this how people do this? Like, and I was like, well, maybe it's just how they do it. Like, but no, okay, so gotta give it some marriage time.
Yeah, and for us, we didn't really we had too much confidence, I think, going into it too, because we basically gave the recipe. We're like, hey, these are the barrels, these are the IDs, go dump these, should be good. And now we know. I mean, we are so thankful that this turned out as fantastic as it did. But we know next time, like, we're going to be down there for at least a week testing it and tasting it before we ever go and release something. So
yeah, before it goes live.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we were
So-
like, oh, it adds up on spreadsheets. It's got to taste right when they dump it all.
Yeah, the math all checked out. We double
We're
checked
just-
the formula.
We're idiots. We don't know what we're doing. So
And I
So
guess
Paul asked us in the chat here, is the Pursuit series going to continue? Your line of single barrels going to keep going now that Pursuit United is launched?
Yeah, it's still going to continue. However, we're not going to put as much focus on doing that. We had a really good strong pipeline of barrels for quite a long time that did rhyme with pickle, and we loved picking those barrels. I know a lot of people hate on that brand. For some reason, this was something that we felt that we were able to do really well because we got to go and cherry pick every single one of these. And we had some really standout ones. Like anybody that's had them, you can find something that's unique about every single one of them.
True.
However, that gravy train came to an end. And so we had to figure out like what's going to be our next path. So we are going to be continuing the Pursuit Series brand. We're probably not going to be growing it anymore. And I don't know if we'll be reducing it. It'll probably just kind of keep the same pace as it's going. We're going to continue working with other distilleries and other brands. As I mentioned, we're actually going to Seattle here in the next few weeks to actually go buy more barrels from Woodinville. So super excited to go and do that and release those as more Pursuit Series too.
Cool.
yeah, and one thing we plan on doing with the Pursuit Series size is now when we have 3 or 4 or 5 years down the line, when we have all of our new make contracts of age, we plan on offering the 3 individual components as single barrels, for people as well. Because we have budgeted a overage of what we anticipate the demand or what we'll sell. So we're hoping to have some overages so we can do some fun single barrel things, with the 3 components as well. But obviously too, we have a broker and, as things come on the market, if there's something interesting that we think is worthy of being a Pursuit Series, we will certainly do it. And we're still reaching out to craft distilleries that we think are, really solid partners, and have something unique to offer. We still want to continue down that path as well.
I dig it.
so. It's
So
nice
look-
to see, you guys getting kind of both sides of that, right? Like, do you ever anticipate coming across like single barrels that you want to throw in the blend, or you trying to keep these to like pretty large small batches?
I think it's just going to be, it's kind of hard to determine that right now. Right now, we don't have a huge inventory of barrels that we're working with, and we are just now working on our new make contracts. And so we've got until 2026 until we really blow this thing up. And that's when we're going to have a lot of leftover barrels that we can then age further to either put back into the blend to mature it a little bit more, to put them off as other Pursuit Series single barrels, or who knows, maybe it's another line extension we'll come out with. It's really kind of hard to tell. We've got a long time until that happens. At least it feels like a long time, but it may just be a blink of an eye, hopefully.
It's funny how that works.
Yeah.
Yeah. Float under the
Yeah,
bridge
it's
quickly.
It's a screwed up
So,
business because you have to have like so much capital right now to like sell product now. Then you got to invest in product between now and when your new make ages, and then you got to invest in new make for 4 to 5 years down the road. So it's like you're just investing a ton of money in hopes of one day it paying off. But it's a fun business as well. But it's definitely so capital intensive, and like the planning is just, I mean, Kenny's a spreadsheet master, but you'll never, just because it works on a spreadsheet, it's not going to come to fruition.
It reminds me of the small fortune joke that like everybody tells with like insert hobby here, but like, the best way to have a small fortune is to start with a big fortune and then start a bourbon brand. And then,
Yep. Exactly.
Get a couple of comments and questions coming in through the chat here, just about the Pursuit United here. You guys have the mash bills to release. Is that something you guys are going to be able to talk about?
We haven't really decided if we're going to talk about the mash bills or the percentages that go into it. Right now, we're happy to be able to disclose that, we are working with BBC, and it is one of their rye-based mash bills. None of them are like a crazy high rye percentage or anything like that. And then the undisclosed Tennessee distillery is also a rye-based mash bill. And then the Finger Lakes we're using their wheated mash bill. So trying to pull in different components, different flavors from each one of these. I know I put in a press release that's kind of going on, with BBC, you get a lot of like maple sort of notes coming out of it. Finger Lakes, a lot of fruit characteristics that are coming from the wheated mash bill. And this other Tennessee distillery, I wish I should have gone downstairs and grabbed a bottle of one that we kind of have available for sale right now, which is I think episode 34 on Sealbox. It's dark. Like, it is super dark. It's like darker than George T. Stagg dark. And it gives a lot of like dark fruits, oak, all those tannins and everything like that in a 4-year product, which is, like I said, when we tried it, we were like, holy crap, like this, we actually have something here.
So is that the main component of the that was your base, right, that you work with?
Yes, it is the base.
Correct.
Yeah, it's the base.
Yeah.
And then go ahead, Ryan.
Well, no, it had to be the base because of not only because it was really good, but it's also our least expensive component, and so to make it
Just
well,
volume wise.
just to get to the price point we needed to be at, it had to be majority, and so that's another crazy thing about blending is like, all right, you have to like think about what each component costs, and you're like, gosh, I really like it with this much component, but that's going to throw it into like the $80-$90 range, or but so that's part of the challenge too. But it's a great base product. I mean, it's like Kenny said, it's got a ton of like dried fruits and kind of oak characteristics. It's they must use a really heavy char because it's so dark when it comes out of the barrel.
That's
and
it's being that young.
Yeah, it's nuts. We were blown away by it, but yeah, it's
no youth whatsoever. That was the craziest thing. We were just like, oh, here we go. And you tried and you're like, it tastes like a 7 to 8-year-old whiskey.
I have been amazed at how many random distilleries have sent me like even I had like a 3.5 year this year, and I was like, oh boy, like here we go. And then you try it and like whatever magic is going on there, and I'm like, wait, there's blind I wouldn't have picked any youth at all. So it's great that that's the base. Like, I think it's working well. I know we've talked about it and not talked a single tasting note, but this is really good. No,
we appreciate it. Like I said, we're super happy with the way it turned out, and I think we did our best to try and find a proof that really spoke to our crowd. We didn't want to come out with a 95 proof. Most of us would rather drink something at least over 100, but we also have to sit there and think of, well, what does mass market want? What do they want? And you look at what's on the shelves that a lot of people that are not even really into bourbon, but they like bourbon that they gravitate towards. You've got, you got Weller 107. You've got Russell's Reserve at 110. And we're like, I think we could probably go somewhere in the middle between that and be perfectly fine. And thankfully, 2 of the distilleries that we're working with, a lot of their proof points on these barrels are 118 to 130 proof. And so once you start cutting it with water, you still have a lot of good barrel characteristic that's still left over. The Finger Lakes is kind of what throws you off a little bit because their barrel proof is at like 105. And so that kind of like it kills your ratio where you got to start, working with the blend a little bit more.
That knocked out a good question. I was going to ask if there was like a conscious choice on the proof. So that was
no, it was pure luck. Like, it's funny. I would get samples, or I'd get a blend that we liked, and we're like, this is it. And I would go to Drew Colsavine because they got like one of those fancy hydrometers, and I'm like, proof this. He told me the proof, and then on this final one I gave, and he was like, it's 108. And I was like, that's perfect. It's not 107. It's not 101. It's not. It's our own thing. So we're excited that it kind of came out that way.
I think it's a good proof. What's the MSRP on this? I think you guys mentioned it earlier, but for everyone tuning in, like
so $65 wherever you're going to find it. And so we did our best to get this down as far as we possibly could. When you're dealing with the source market, it gets expensive because if you're not, everybody doesn't know, if you're making it on your own and you're not even contracted selling, if you're literally making it on your own, those barrels cost like maybe $250 like after they're full, and you just got to wait. When you're buying them on the source market, you're spending thousands of dollars for the same exact barrel. So trying to get your price point low is very, very hard unless you're doing it at massive scale. So we thought that we need to be able to compete with the same territory as Ryan said, those brands earlier, Wilderness Trail, New Riff, Rabbit Hole. If we can try to find a good happy medium that we can sit on the shelves and we can be right next to them, and we have a good taste profile. Like I said, I think this is really, really an awesome taste and everything like that for the price and everything like that, because we definitely didn't want to have to do, what we do have to do with some of the Pursuit series. Like, yeah, they're $150 on the shelf. Like, sorry, that's just what it has to be. And sometimes we lose money on that. So.
Yeah, and the only reason I ask, I think that's well placed. Sipping this, all I can think of is like this would also be really good in a cocktail, and that elevated proof. Everyone wants to sit down with a neat pour all the time, but it's nice to know that if you're going to spend money on something, if you want to make a really nice cocktail, that it's going to hold up just fine as well.
Oh, for sure. We haven't tried it yet. We actually don't have enough to be able to mess around with cocktails. We ended up just, what was it, yesterday? Yeah, yesterday. Kind of doing media samples and getting all those packed up, and that left us with 2 bottles apiece left is what we have.
Yep.
So we'll end up having to buy our own bottles back to be able to get
so I can't wait till they come to Kentucky so I can go buy them.
Good problem to have, man.
I gotta buy more of this so I can like tinker with it, because like I'm not about to use, and you guys were generous with the sample, which is nice. Like it was nice to have a lot of pours getting ready for this and stuff, which some places are like, yeah, we'll send you a sample, and they send you like 5 drops in a vial, and you're like, oh
yeah, a Blake Reber sample.
Yeah, the classic Blake
Thimble.
half of a 1 ounce thimble.
No, we get samples all the time, and as much as we'd love to be able to send full bottles out to everybody, we just didn't have it in the availability within the side of this small run to be able to do it. But who knows? In the future, it's going to be a different story.
200 milliliters is enough to. It's been really nice to get to know it over the last week or so. When I don't even know what day it is anymore. I forget when it showed up, but it's been a while. So it's fun to come to it first in the evening, at the end of the evening, the middle of the evening.
Well, you two were the first ones to get it, because we had to get the media samples shipped out for you all because we knew we were doing this.
That's great. I was wondering too. I was like, there's an embargo on this press sheet, and I was like, that's gonna be really weird since the segment goes live before that. I was like, all right. Well.
Now, the idea that we wanted this to be one of the first releases for 2021. However, we can't control when it hits distributors and when they put it out and stuff like that. But we're really not going to do a media push or, a lot of like advertising. That's kind of why we waited to send media samples to actually start getting there next week. So you'll see a lot more media push starting next week and a lot of stuff like that. So
cool.
So I had one more thing come through chat that I wanted to ask you before we start wrapping this up here. But this is probably going to be more of a Cecil question, but how many distilleries, barrels, blends, whatever, did you have to try before you guys sort of nailed down what you were going to end up working with before you made the blend? Like, what was the process to get your components, your ingredients, if you will?
So we had the Tennessee distilling, and we knew we had a good pipeline. So I had that, and then probably had, say, 3 to 4 that we tried to make it work with. I'm trying to run through my head, but
anything that's available on the source market.
Yeah, anything that's available on the source market. But yeah, and like Kenny said, it would have been cool for a one-time release, but it was going to be impossible to scale. So I don't know why. One day I was like spraying a yard, and I was like, you know what? I should call Bardstown Bourbon Company. their juice has got to be coming of age. And gosh, like Kenny said, it's been so refreshing because it actually gave us the opportunity to really be able to scale this, because we can get a product that's we're not at the mercy of the market. We can kind of dictate our own future with it.
Cool. So it sounds like just the economy itself was sort of a driving factor more than it was getting your way through all the different samples and barrels.
Yeah, because you're limited to what's on the open market, and you're always at the mercy of what's available. And so you just kind of have to work with, something comes on the market, and you're like, hey, send it, let me work with it. And there were times that I worked with it and it worked great, but they sold out, within a day. And
right.
So that's the frustrating part of it too, is you work so hard to dial it in, and then you realize you can't. The product's not available for you to make it happen. So,
but it's a blessing at the same exact time.
It is too. Like we're so lucky that none of those worked out because we wouldn't be where we are with BBC and everyone else. And so we have like this path now to like securing our future and securing this product. So it's just been a huge sigh of relief, and we're so excited about it. That we can just continue to offer this and not be at the mercy of the market moving forward.
That's great. Yeah, it's cool to see. Man, their acronym kills me. I always want to say BBC, and I'm just like, oh.
I see that every time somebody says that. I see it all over your face, man.
For a second, like, oh yeah, like in my head they're BBC, but like, I mean, they're doing really cool stuff. Like, you know, we've been talking about doing some stuff with our bourbon through them, and it is nice to like have some look on the future, because like whiskey itself is just like so uncertain at times. So it's great to know, like, because I was worried, like, oh, cool, like, is this the first blend, and then it's going to totally change, you know, every iteration after that. So, you know, having that pipeline locked down, I think is going to be awesome for, you know, consistency. Like, I'm sure there'll be changes over the years, but, you know, having access to the product is key.
Oh, for sure. And,
Yeah,
you know, one of the things that wasn't mentioned, but every single person we talked about, you know, at least with Finger Lakes, when we were doing stuff with Willet, you know, we've got some new makeover there. When we were doing with BBC, they're like, oh, you should create your own mash bill, and, you know, let's do this and let's really dial it in. And Ryan and I were like, no, we do not want a proprietary mash bill. We do not give a shit. It tastes good as it is. Just keep recreating this over and over. So.
That's funny. I mean, it's good though. Yeah, okay, the novelty would be there, but like, you know, leave the experts to do the experts. Like, you
exactly
become experts in enough like different things, I'm sure, over the last couple of years, that like, you know, letting someone else be the expert for something is probably nice.
Yeah, it's when you have variables that go out of control that you don't know about, and you're just like, listen, like, I know that this mash bill that you've gave us is great. You've got a good amount of barrels. Like, we don't need to change that. Let's just keep doing this and just kind of keep growing it if we can.
Very cool. Sorry, guys. I promise I don't have the flu or anything. But
yeah, right.
Just hopefully it was our whiskey that did it to you.
No, I'm just like, okay, I can still smell. Like, we're good. We can go on through. But I mean, this has been great. We've gone a little bit longer than we usually do, but it has been a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us. And honestly, it's kind of cool. Like, you know, like the branding's slick, the product's cool. John and I have been talking kind of ad nauseum over the last couple of like weeks about how like blending is coming for single barrels, and it's kind of funny to like watch all these different veins like tie together. Like, we're talking about Bullet, Blender Select, you know, we're not talking about Pursuit United, which is blender. Like, you know, blends have been shunned for a really long time for no particular reason. So it's really cool to see them coming back into the market and targeting enthusiasts, which is the whole reason that single barrels came about anyways, right? Was to like get to the enthusiasts. So I'm super pumped for this, and congratulations. I mean, this is no small undertaking.
We appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, we have to give hats off to our label designer, our package designer, Brian at Relay Design. He's actually my neighbor, like 2 doors down, and he knocks it out of the park every single time. So it's hats off to him, and anybody that wants to start their own brand, we can get you hooked up with him too, because he's always open for business for doing that too.
That's really cool. So Ryan, Kenny, thanks for your time tonight. If people want to know more about Bourbon Pursuit, Pursuit Spirits, particularly Pursuit United, where can they find you? Where's all this going down?
Yeah, you can go to our website at pursuitspirits.com. From there, you can get information for all of the single barrels that are available for sale, that are either available on Sealbox, or you can get them, you know, you can actually look and see if they're in Texas, what stores are they available in Texas or across Tennessee and stuff like that. And then Pursuit United will be going for sale here relatively soon on Sealbox, so be on the lookout for that. And I believe it's already started hitting store shelves in Texas and Tennessee. So
nice.
Start hunting. Georgia still got a few more weeks. They said they're not going to even pick it up until next week. So
take
you
that,
still
Gary.
got 2 or 3 more weeks there.
Cecil, you got anything in there to close it out?
No, just thanks for having us on, man. We're super excited. It's something we never thought we could even think about doing, you know, a few years ago, and to see it come to fruition, you know, it's been a lot of hard work, and we're just thankful, you know, to have the opportunity to talk about it and share it with this great community. So I appreciate you giving us the time to come on here and tell our story. So hopefully it resonates and people get to try it and, you know, come grow with us.
Absolutely, man. I'm proud of you, lads. This is really nice.
Well,
Thank
cheers.
you.
Thank you all. Definitely I'm glad to hear the feedback as well. This was something that we were always super nervous about. And now that we have it, we felt confident in it and getting it out. And we're super excited of being able to kind of get it in the hands of all the other whiskey geeks out there too.
Yeah, but we're biased, obviously, so it's nice to hear other people say they like it too. But they could just be nice to us, since people are nice. But no, we're happy. We're happy with the initial feedback for sure.
Well, I think it's good. I think people are going to agree. I'm sure we'll find out when the internet at large gets them. But
Absolutely.
it's good stuff. So thanks for joining us, guys. Bourbon Pursuit. Check out the podcast. Check out Pursuit United and all the other single barrels they do through Patreon and beyond. If you're looking for more weekly whiskey, join us on Thursday. After Hours drops the last of 2020, and then we're back into 2021. If you are watching from the Take.Review YouTube channel or the Bourbon Finder YouTube channel, you should stop it. Subscribe to Weekly Whiskey instead, because in 2021, you're not going to get Weekly Whiskey through those channels anymore. You can find John at the Bourbon Finder on Instagram or the bourbonfinder.com, and you can find me at whiskeyraiders.com, where we talk about whiskey and we're rating stuff. And in the new year, we'll have Pursuit United right up as everyone starts writing about it. So it should be fun. But stay healthy, stay happy, everyone. Enjoy your New Year's Eve, and we will see you again in 2021. So cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Guys.
Thank you.
Happy New Year.
Yeah.